It is time for Wiltfong Whiparound. Our director of recruiting, Steve Wiltfong, joining us with the latest. See, he's going at it right now. Steve, we'll start with Miami's pursuit of two of the top wide receivers in the 2024 class, 5-star Jeremiah Smith and 4-star Ny Carr. Now, Smith is an Ohio State commit, Carr currently uncommitted. Both will be in Miami this weekend for the game against Georgia Tech. Where does Miami stand with these top two targets?
Well, love where Miami stands with top 247 receiver Ny Carr, who decommitted from Georgia roughly 2 weeks ago. And as soon as he decommitted, several sources told me that Miami was the program to beat for him. Florida State, Auburn, also in the picture. And he was just at Auburn this past weekend, but he's going to be in Coral Gables this weekend. He's going to arrive on campus on Friday, where he'll meet with Coach Cristobal for the first time. And I think if that meeting goes well, if those two interact and jive well together, Miami's in position for some really good news from Ny Carr down the road. And with Jeremiah Smith, we talk about him a lot on the recruiting show. He's the number one receiver in the country, longtime commit to Ohio State. And while I think it's a long road, a tough road to ultimately flip Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State because of his relationship with Brian Hartline and Ohio State's track record of offense and receiver production, trending for more first-round picks from that receiver room. If you talk to people around Coral Gables, people that have spent time with him at Miami, which this is a return trip to him since he's been committed to Ohio State, they feel that with a great season, they have a puncher's chance to land him. And guess what? That great season is happening. They should win again on Saturday, should remain undefeated. So they're doing all that they can to show Jeremiah Smith that this offense under Shannon Dawson and this program under Mario Cristobal and company collectively is on the right track. And this is another opportunity to continue to chip away at Ohio State if you're Miami.
Speaking of Saturday, Steve, A&M has perhaps its biggest home game of the season versus Alabama. Jimbo's getting some huge talents on campus, including 5-star Kobe Black, 4-star Cam McKell, and 4-star Jason Mitchell. As they look to cap off a strong cycle, Steve, how pivotal is this weekend for the Aggies?
Blair Grace, hearing over 300 recruits expected for this game from 2024, 2025, and 2026. Thankfully, I don't think they'll be doing 300 photo shoots for this one, even though they technically still could. But 5-star corner Kobe Black, one of the most coveted players in the country. Been a lot of Texas buzz for Kobe. Love where the Longhorns stand. Aggies, probably the biggest challenger for him. Cameron Michael, top 247 athlete from the Peach State, who was at the pool party in July, coming back for his official visit with his cousin, his teammate, defensive end, Amontre Bradford. And Cameron Michael, Texas A&M is recruiting him the same way they recruited Terry Bussey, which is, dude, you can play left tackle here if you want to play left tackle. He's athletic, man. He can play offense. He can play receiver. He's one of the fastest players in the country. He can do a lot of things for you in the secondary. And so Texas A&M, they envision him helping in the pass game or in the secondary, but they'd love to have him. Solomon Williams is a defensive end that is coming off an official visit to Texas. Bama's in there, but A&M looking to make a move for him as well. And then the biggest name in the 2025 class is 5-star cornerback Devin Sanchez, who things have been picking up between him and Texas A&M over the last few months with BGA, the lead recruiter for Texas A&M there. But Alabama's always been in great position for him. Ohio State, LSU, but A&M rising in the ranks for Devin Sanchez as they get him and so many other offered targets in the younger classes inside Kyle Field, an opportunity to not only make a statement as they close out one of the best recruiting classes in the country here in 2024, but set the tone with so many top targets in 2025 and 2026 and beyond.
Florida State gets Virginia Tech in Tallahassee this weekend, Steve, and 4-star defensive lineman LJ McRay is among the notable official visitors. He's been pretty active recently, took visits to Florida and Auburn. How is his recruiting process shaping up?
Well, it's tight because, look, this is good news for Texas A&M that LJ McRay's coming, because every time he's seen one of his top schools play a game this fall, they've won in grand fashion. And Florida State was the first game. He saw him on a neutral field against LSU get a W. And he was at Florida for their big win over Tennessee. He was at Auburn last week for their great atmosphere. And here they are. He was at Miami for their big win over the Aggies. So here's an opportunity for Florida State to get another big win in front of LJ McRay. He loves Coach Odell Haggins and has a great rapport with him. And Florida State trying to make a move. If you had asked me coming into the season, I would have gave Georgia the edge. Florida's always been a mainstay at the top. But he's got a ton of family around Miami. Miami's doing well this year. So Auburn, he's clicked with Jeremy Garrett, and now Florida State, it's their turn again to make another move with LJ McRay.
Now, Mike Norvell and his staff have a couple more important commits on campus this weekend, and that's 5-star athlete KJ Balden and 4-star cornerback Charles Lester. Both are committed to the Noles, but that hasn't stopped them from visiting elsewhere, Steve, namely Balden, who has crystal balls logged for Georgia. So how important is this weekend for FSU to reaffirm those commitments from these guys?
Yeah, and I think it's a tough road for schools trying to flip KJ Balden and Charles Lester right now. But Balden was at Auburn last weekend. He's always loved being around that Auburn staff. They've done a magnificent job recruiting him. He was at Georgia earlier in the fall. Georgia has increased their intensity in the way they've recruited KJ Balden. But KJ was at Florida State's opening win over LSU. He loved it. He's back in Tallahassee for this one. Still plans to take his official visit for the Miami game later in the season. So I like where they stand there, but always good to get them back around. And same goes with Charles Lester, who's visited Florida this year. Colorado's not going away for him as well. But Florida State, I still think they sit strong with these guys. And LJ McRay, getting those guys around LJ McRay this weekend will be big for the Noles.
Missouri versus LSU is another big game that will draw a lot of star power. 5-star commit Williams Nwaneri, as well as 5-star wide receiver Ryan Wingo. And then you have the top in-state players in both 25 and in 26 headed over to Missouri. Steve, how would you quantify the opportunity that Eli Drinkwitz has this weekend?
Well, I like where Texas stands with Ryan Wingo, the number 2 receiver in the country. But this is his second time seeing Mizzou play. This fall, he was at the win over Memphis when they played in St. Louis. They love the offense. They love Coach Peeler and his track record of developing guys like A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf. And Coach Drink, he is one of the most engaged head coach recruiters in the country, and he is not giving up on Ryan Wingo in this push. And Ryan Wingo could have went to Red River. He could have went to College Station this weekend to see Texas A&M play Alabama, but he's at Mizzou, continuing to give the home team an opportunity to recruit him, as Texas has been the program to beat since the fall. They got him back for the Wyoming game, but Mizzou hanging around, and you can't sleep on them in this recruitment. This is another opportunity to remain undefeated in front of him, to remain undefeated in front of Isaiah Mosey, the top 247 number 1 player in the state receiver in the 2025 class. And those guys, seeing Luther Burden go off, Luther Burden had 10 catches for 177 yards against Memphis in front of Ryan Wingo the first time. His development under Coach Peeler is really standing out to those guys. And Coach Drinkowitz, he's not letting those families down from a recruiting aspect. And then Jackson Cantwell is the number 1 player in the state in 2026. Top 10 overall player for us in the 2026 rankings in offensive tackle. That's made the rounds this fall to like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Nebraska. He likes Alabama. He likes Georgia. But he also likes Mizzou. And what a great start to the season, as Jackson Cantwell is eventually going to get the same treatment that Ryan Wingo, Williams Nwaneri, and Isaiah Mosey are getting, if he's not already getting that from Mizzou currently.
Louisville with an exciting opportunity this weekend hosting Notre Dame. Jeff Brom has the Cards undefeated 5-0 for the first time since 2013. Now, several targets on campus for this top 25 matchup. Steve, what do you like most about Jeff Brom's first season here and just how he's bringing the energy on the field and on the trail?
Well, I think people kind of lost track of Jeff Brom and his brilliance as a head coach and as a play caller. And now he's at his alma mater, back in his city. He's at home with his brother. His son, Brady Brom, is like one of the key figures in the recruiting office at 18 years old. And it's a family enterprise there at Louisville. There's so much great positive energy from the city poured in, the investment from the university. And then Jeff Brom and his offense and his culture, they have not let anybody down since they got there. They got extra days to prepare for this Notre Dame game. I just picture him and his brother Brian sitting back. I don't know if they have a dip in or whatever, as they're just drawing up some some new plays for this game against Notre Dame. But they're going to try and put on a show in front of a great list of recruits, a lot of offered guys. The top 247 guys that are coming: defensive end London Merritt, offensive lineman Chauncey Gooden. Those are some guys that they hope to make an impression on. But so many offered guys coming to Louisville for what's going to be an awesome environment. Louisville's a cool city, a night game. Notre Dame's in town. There's going to be a lot of energy, and this is just a big opportunity for Louisville to continue building on a great start that they're off to with 2025 recruits and beyond.
Flyville is certainly getting off the ground there in Louisville. And Steve, we usually ask you to give us the thumbs up so that we get some likes and we get some viewer questions. Well, this is exactly why. We have a question from Tyler Chambers. He wants to know, Steve, do you have any news on five-star defensive lineman Aiden Breland before he commits?
Well, this was part of the Q&A of the Whiparound last Thursday as well. And at that point, I was still all in on thinking that Georgia had the edge going into his announcement, with Oregon and Miami giving chase. But the more I dig in on this recruitment and attack it with our colleague Greg Biggins, among other, Oregon is a program that it just seems like there's more and more buzz picking up around the Ducks. I think there's some people that think that Oregon is in the driver's seat for Aiden Breland, and there's another source said that, look, Oregon doesn't trail. So you got Miami in there still fighting to the end, and Mario Cristobal and company. Anytime they're battling for recruits, you figure they got more than a puncher's chance. And Georgia, he was at a Georgia game earlier this season. He wanted to get there and see that atmosphere in between the hedges, and they're certainly going to continue their push for him and LJ McRay, among others. But Oregon seems to be the team that might have the most buzz around them going into his upcoming decision. But one source said, look, this thing's fluid. So, we'll see what happens down the home stretch.
All right, Steve, appreciate you joining us as always. And we'll find a way to sneak you into a photo shoot one of these days. But for more coverage from the pulling of Brian Kelly, you're ready to go. More coverage from the recruiting trail all around the country. Be sure to subscribe to us at the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel and turn on those notifications so you never miss a tape breakdown, expert analysis, or a live commitment.